Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast number 224, recorded live on Monday, November 24th, 2014. I am your host and the winner of the American Music Award for Best Podcast Intro, Todd Klindt. Before we get any further, though, I need to give a shout out to the folks at Rackspace. They make all this happen. They gave me the flags and the monitor and the PowerPoint presentation. And this week I'm sporting a brand new Rackspace shirt. So anybody, if you know anything about Rackspace, number one, that we have just crazy fanatical support folks and just a great place to work and all that. But the other thing is we Rackers, we love our t-shirts. And I'm not exaggerating about how much we love our t-shirts. When you start at Rackspace, you go through a thing called Rookie Orientation or Rookie O. And right outside of Rookie O, there was a huge long wall. And I can't even begin to guess how long that wall is. And it has hundreds of t-shirts on it. T-shirts that have been made for all kinds of occasions. And they've got them hanging up for everybody to enjoy. Every event gets a t-shirt. Every group gets a t-shirt. It's been great. So in the fine Rackspace tradition of making new t-shirts for everything, I'm sporting my Rack Vet t-shirt in honor of Veterans Day a couple of weeks ago. There is a active group of veterans inside of Rackspace. Rackspace is headquartered in San Antonio, which has a huge military population and a huge former military population. Stuff like USAA is headquartered there. The Wounded Warrior Foundation is headquartered there. So the military thing is really a big deal. And so they've got a very active group of veterans. And myself being a veteran, I was given one of these shirts, Rack Vet shirts, and it says a thing on the back. It says, "We served proudly and now we serve some more," or something, I forget. But there we go. So this week, more of my Rackspace stuff. So thanks to those guys that made all this happen. I meant to wear it last week, but I put it in the laundry and then lost it. So it took me a week to find it. But I wanted, so I found it like last Tuesday or Wednesday. Wanted to wear it, but didn't want to wash it again for fear I'd lose it. But here it is. So thanks to the folks at Rackspace for this shirt and all that kind of stuff. Appreciate all that. Production notes. I think everything went well last week. I don't remember. Must not have gone too badly. I think I got the MP3 file up pretty quickly. Kind of drug my feet on the other stuff, but I think it was all up by Thursday. So I will try to get that done before the holiday this week, before Thanksgiving here in the U.S. Try to get that up. But we're a couple of months into doing this with the Google Hangouts and on YouTube. So far, I think it's going great. I haven't heard any detractors from it yet. The only thing is I made a huge blunder last week. So if you go to toddklindt.com/netcast, it's a horrible mess, or a hot mess, as the kids say these days. But one thing that I have there is you can watch the live stream embedded in there, and then there's the chat room. So when I was doing this with Ustream, whenever I was live, that thing would work. And then whenever I wasn't live, it wouldn't work. And that was kind of cruddy. I didn't really like that. And now that I've got this in YouTube, I made a YouTube playlist. So you can go to that Netcast page anytime, any day of the week, anytime, night or day. And it's got a playlist of all of my Netcasts in descending order. So the most recent one is there. You just hit play and it just starts up. Pretty cool. But then when I go live, that URL has to change. So I have to go in and edit a file, re-upload it to make that thing so that it's the live stream. So if you go there right now, Monday night at 8:41 Central Time, you'll see the live feed, the real thing that's going on. Last week, I forgot to upload that. So we had a few people that were in the chat room following along, but watching the previous week's Netcast, so watching Netcast 222 while I was recording 223 and getting horribly confused and lost about what I was talking about, what people were saying. So that was one production oops that I made last week. I will not make that again. I need to automate that a little bit, throw some PowerShell at it so that when I start my new Hangout, because every week the Google address is different, it automatically uploads it, some of that kind of stuff. But that was I apologize. I felt horrible about that last week. There were some very confused people, and I feel terrible. But other than that, I think production went pretty well. But again, I look forward to your comments, all that kind of stuff. Anything I can do to make it better, you can hit me up on Twitter at Todd Klindt or email me todd.klindt@rackspace.com. On to this evening's topics. This is a holiday week. So I might try to keep it short. We'll see. And if we have time, I've got a funny story about a stupid thing that I did this weekend that you guys will all love, I'm sure. Everybody loves a good story about stupid stuff that I've done, including me. So we'll see if we have time for it. The first thing that I wanted to mention was I had an article get published today at SharePoint Pro Mag. Those are the folks at Penton, and they have been on me for several months to write some articles for them, and I've got a bunch that are half done. I finally eked one out. I finally buttoned one up for them. My apologies go out to Caroline Marwitz. She's been very patient with me, and so I finally got one out. I submitted it a few weeks ago. You can go to sharepointpromag.com and read it there, or I will publish a blog post about it, and that short URL will be in here somewhere. So the name of the article is making the case for using host-named site collections in SharePoint 2013. And the gist of the paper is that with SharePoint 2013 now, we can create host-named site collections, and it'll actually work. It'll actually be good. And so I gave some examples in the paper, the article on how to create them, how to set them up, how to configure them. For those of you that haven't done it before, a host name site collection is a site collection that is, the way you can tell site collections apart normally is by the path. So you have, company.contoso.com/sites/HR, site/accounting, whatever. It's the path that differentiates the site collections. They all have the same host, that company.contoso.com. Host name site collections are site collections in every way, shape, and form, but they have their own host name. So instead of being, portal.contoso.com/site/HR, they would be hr.contoso.com. Now, it's not a separate web app, even though it's got a separate host name. It's in the portal web app or whatever web app you choose, but it's got its own host name. There's some great advantages to this. Number one is it's just less typing. Number two, companies and groups and all that love to have these vanity URLs. They don't like the idea that they're part of this big collective. They like the idea that they've got their own thing. And so, I started doing the SharePoint thing as a full-time job with SharePoint 2003, 100 years ago. And that was one of the things that always came up. People hated typing the whole thing out. And you have a hard limit, well, not a hard limit, but a soft limit, a performance limit to the number of web apps that you can have. So you can't just create a new web app for everybody. And that would be a mess anyway. You'd have to manage everything separately. It would be ugly. You'd hate it. Previous versions of SharePoint had host name site collection like functionality. They just didn't work very well. It was clumsy. You couldn't manage it very well. So I avoided them. I made fun of people who used them. But in SharePoint 2013, they're actually pretty good. They're pretty usable, and I'm actually using them in some production environments, and I think it's gone pretty well. So basically, you create your site collection. You have to do it in PowerShell, or as I like to say, you get to do it in PowerShell. And it's the same way you would create a normal site collection, but you give this other parameter, this host header site collection. Or this host web app or whatever, I forget the parameter now. But then it just tells it, create this host name site collection, but create it in this other web app, just like you normally would. And then, it's in those same databases, and it uses all the same web app settings, recycle bin, authentication, all those things are the same as the web app that it goes into. And also you can essentially have an unlimited number of those. Now the limit of those that you can have is really only governed by how many site collections you could have in that web app. Otherwise, database sizes, all that kind of stuff. So they're really great now in SharePoint 2013. Once you get past the management bit that you have to do everything in PowerShell, they're quite powerful. So that article, it was a good one. I wrote that as part of a bigger piece that I didn't end up publishing, but that piece I was really proud of. So if you get a chance, go out to sharepointpromag.com and check that article out, and let me know if you're using hostname site collections in a production environment in SharePoint 2013, what the gotchas are, what you like about them, what you don't like about them, because I'm sure I'll be talking about it more in the future. I've written some tools to kind of help manage that, and I might be publishing those later. So I would love to hear from you if you've got some experience with that. But thanks to the folks at Penton and the folks at SharePoint Pro Mag for once again letting me publish another article, be associated with them. I'm kind of proud of that, so I appreciate it. The next thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit, and I don't want to spend a lot of time about this, talking about this, but it was kind of a big deal last week. Last week, there was a fairly large Azure outage. And the reason I bring it up is because working for Rackspace, we're all in this cloud thing. And so I saw some discussion with other people talking about, this Azure outage, how, you could spin this as a good thing for Rackspace. Azure went down and all that kind of stuff. I don't see it that way. I know in a technical sense, Azure and some of their other products are probably competitors, maybe. But I don't necessarily see it that way. I don't see those guys as the competition, as the bad guys. But more importantly, I think anytime there's a big outage like that, it hurts all of the cloud providers. So I don't think it was a good thing that Azure went down, other than the fact that it lets Microsoft and other cloud providers learn from the mistake. So part of the frustration with the Azure outage is that it was not confined to one geographic region. So one of the things that the folks at Microsoft have said is, if you want redundancy, if you want fault tolerance, you need to have your app, your whatever, in multiple regions, because we're going to do maintenance. We're going to kind of follow the sun. So we're not going to do maintenance in multiple regions at the same time, things like that. And so they've been pretty clear that that's what you should do. The problem was this outage that happened at such a low level that it took multiple regions out at a time. And so while it didn't take all 11 regions out at once, it took the vast majority of them out. And it's certainly not reasonable for a customer to have their servers in all regions in case 9 of the 11 go down or whatever. So that was frustrating because people had taken steps to protect themselves against a single region failure, and then multiple regions failed and they got taken down anyway. The other thing that was frustrating for a lot of people was things started failing, and in Microsoft's defense, Microsoft stuff failed. There was a whole bunch of back-end things, live stuff and Visual Studio Online and all kinds of things like that failed because of this Azure failure. So when these things start happening, the first thing people do is go to azure.microsoft.com and go to the status page to see what's going on. And I guess I didn't look at it at the time because I don't have anything in Azure, nothing of importance. But I guess the status page, for the most part, said everything was fine, except for the fact that things weren't fine. And so there was a lot of frustration about that. And I link a blog post on the azure.microsoft.com blog where people talk about it. They go into a little bit of the details. I've seen some more details other places about what actually happened. But reading through the comments was interesting to me, because the people who wrote those comments, they are cloud customers. And so while they aren't directly Rackspace customers, they're going to have the same frustrations as Rackspace customers. So I was kind of interested in reading through that to see what things caused them angst and all that. And it was interesting because people were understandably upset. This was several hours and all that kind of stuff. And people were saying stuff like, well, I'm going to move my stuff to AWS, blah, blah. I don't know that anybody's going to be immune from this. I think while Microsoft has been doing this for years, and honestly, the cloud is really just an extension of hosting, which has been going on for decades. We're sort of in the infancy of this cloud thing, and I think everybody's going to make mistakes. So I don't think, obviously, Microsoft's not immune to it. I don't think AWS is going to be immune to it. Google's not immune to it. Rackspace isn't going to be immune to it. So it's unfortunate, but I think this is kind of part of the growing pains of the cloud. But it was interesting to see the back end of what happened and to see all that. So my condolences to the folks at Microsoft. I know that that must have been painful for them to endure. I can only imagine the nightmare it was for their operations folks to get that dealt with. But I did want to mention that a little bit. Okay. The next topic, something that, and Naomi's in the chat room and Laura as well, some folks that know about this a little bit. Naomi and Laura and I and about 15 other people were asked to be part of a roundtable to help Microsoft plan the Ignite event next May. And they said that they were going to do things a little different when it came for asking for topics and things like that. They're first going to ask what you, the attendee, wants to hear at Ignite, and then they're going to try to figure out from that who's going to present on it, what topics are going to take, and all that kind of stuff. They've said that for a while. Well, finally, that site is out. If you go to ignite2015.eventpoint.com /survey/call for topics, or I think you can also go to the regular Ignite webpage. Now you can go in there and you can tell Microsoft what topics you want to have covered at Ignite. And I think this is great that they're taking that into consideration. So again, this is the entire Microsoft stack. This is SharePoint and Exchange and Office 365 and Windows and Xbox and Notepad and Bob, the whole gamut. Whatever the topic is, if you're going to Ignite, you need to let them know what you want to hear. And they're going to take that feedback and kind of figure out where everything fits, see what topics people want to hear about. So if you're going to Ignite, you owe it to yourself to fill that out. And if I hear anybody belly aching once they get to Ignite, that there's not enough stuff that they want to hear about, if you didn't fill out that survey, I'm going to tell you, you got nothing to bellyache about. You can't gripe if you don't fill that out. So that's good. And don't be afraid to drop my name and tell them that you need to see some sessions from yours truly. I need all the help I can get. So don't be afraid to do that at all. Doesn't hurt my feelings. It's all good. And I see some folks in the chat room. Lori dropped in for a minute. She's on vacation, but she's so dedicated. She showed up anyway. She's filled it out. Joanne's filled it out. Naomi's filled it out. I have not filled it out yet, but that's because I'm still trying to think about how many times I can drop my own name without it being obvious that it's me. So I'm working on that, but I'll get that done before the holiday. So. All right. So now we've got a bunch of other crazy stuff, a whole bunch of things, crazy tech stuff, all that. One of the things I wanted to mention, if you've got a Windows phone like this little beauty right here, and if you're using the preview for developers, there was a preview. There was a Windows Phone update last week. So if you're not signed up for the preview for developers, go out to the Windows Store, download the preview for developers, run the app, tell them yes, and then you can go to check for updates. There was an update for Windows Phone last week. I don't know all the things that it added, but it added a little battery tile now, so you can keep better track of your battery and all that kind of stuff. So go out there and check that out. And the other thing, so not only if you download this update do you get the battery icon, but you also get the ability to sit back smugly and feel superior to your friends that either don't have Windows phones or have Windows phones but don't have the new software out there, because that's the whole reason that I downloaded it. So it was pretty quick, just took 10 minutes or so, rebooted a couple times. So that's all good. Speaking of updates, Windows 10 also got some updates last week. There was a couple of rounds of that. Microsoft is doing this cool thing now with Windows 10, which is just in beta, but they've got this ability to patch the beta through Windows Update. So now it's not that whole thing where every time a new build comes out, you got to wipe it and reinstall and all that. The Windows 10 beta actually updates itself through Windows Update, and you get to control how often that gets updated. So they've rolled out this new thing called circles, and they've got the fast circle and the slow circle, and that dictates how soon you get updates. So if you want to be on the bleeding edge of the updates, and as soon as they get released, you can go into your Windows Update settings in Windows 10 and say, I want to be in the fast circle. And then as soon as those updates are there, you get them. But if you're using the system in an environment where you prefer less downtime, you can put yourself in the slow system, and then a couple of weeks after the updates come out, then you'll get them. So you'll be able to see what other people have, what their experience has been. And plus, if that patch has any problems and Microsoft pulls it, then you won't get it. So there's the fast circle and the slow circle. Up until today, to get the latest build of Windows 10, you had to install the old ISO and then the original one that they released, and then update that, and then jiggle some stuff and update it again, and that would get you to the latest build. But now they've got an ISO that they released today that's got the latest build to the preview. So you can go to preview.windows.com, sign up for that. I'm running Windows 10 in a VM. It's working pretty well, and I had it on a laptop that I rebuilt, and and just haven't updated that yet. So I'll need to do that. But the Windows 10 beta so far has been pretty good. I've been pretty happy with it. The improvements that they've made over Windows 8.1 are mostly for desktop machines. So if you've just got a tablet like my little Dell Venue 8 Pro here, I have not put Windows 10 on it because the stuff I've seen for Windows 10 doesn't improve its experience much. So there was the whole risk and reward thing. The reward didn't seem very high, so I did not do it. But kudos to Microsoft for making it that easy for us to test their stuff. I appreciate it. Okay, for the rest of tonight's Netcast, which is, oh boy, we're almost at a half an hour already. Going to be talking about some cool new tech gadgets that I've got in the last week. I know you guys look to me for guidance on your tech gadgets, and I'm here to not disappoint. And so I had some things, got 3 or 4 things I want to talk about, and we'll do that. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, this was something that showed up a couple of weeks ago. Amazon, came from Amazon. They announced this for pre-order, and if you didn't jump in right away, you probably haven't got one, but they released a thing called the Amazon Fire Stick. So this is an HDMI connector here. We have a micro USB connector here and all kinds of Amazon tech goodness inside. So the Amazon Fire Stick is kind of the next generation of the Amazon TV thing. And this basically is a set-top box for your TV. You plug it into your HDMI port, you plug it into USB to charge it, and it becomes like a Roku box or something like it. Like if a Roku box and a Miracast receiver made a baby, it would be this thing right here. So this is running a specialized version of Android, the same type of version that the Fire TV is running, and like the Fire tablets and all that stuff. So it's got apps and things like that you can run on it. Now, let's be very clear. This thing cost me $20. Now, I got in early because I was a Prime provider or a Prime subscriber. The market price for this is going to be $40, though I've heard that you can get it at Best Buy for $20 or $25. This thing costs more than $20 to produce. Certainly costs more than that, probably more than $40 also. This little device's whole purpose in life is to make it easier for you, the consumer, to buy more of more of Amazon's stuff. Okay. And so when you're looking at the apps and things like that it has, keep that in mind, because it makes it really easier for you to consume like Amazon Prime movies or Amazon MP3s, things like that. It's got all that. Now, it's got a whole bunch of other apps too. It's not just for consuming Amazon content. It's got Netflix, of course, because everything does Netflix. My TV does Netflix. My Roku box does Netflix. I can do it with my Chromecast. I think my toaster does Netflix. I've got a pair of slippers that I'm absolutely certain does Netflix. And so everything it does Netflix, but it also does Hulu and Hulu Plus. It's got the Showtime Anywhere app. It's got Pandora. It's got all those kind of things. So any kind of digital media that you want to consume, you can consume with this. If you've got a bunch of media in your house, if you do like me and you rip your MP3s and rip your movies and stuff like that when you buy them, there's a Plex client for this. Plex is a great home server thing. A Plex client for this also. So it's pretty slick. Now, again, you can get it at Best Buy for $20, $25, and I think they have them in the store. You can actually walk into the store and grab one and walk out. If you buy it from Amazon, it's $40, and right now they're back ordered, but they said they'll be back in stock January 15th. So I know I couldn't wait that long. Now, let me talk a little bit about what came in the box. So obviously this came in the box, and it came with an HDMI dongle. So if, like on my TV, there's stuff on either side of the HDMI port. So this little dongle lets you put it in places and it doesn't stick out quite so bad. Now, I said this charges or is powered by USB, and it is. It's the regular 5-volt stuff, but it requires a little more amperage than the USB standard. So they provided this little itty bitty wall wart here. So you can plug this in. When I hung my TV on the wall here, I've got a power plug back there. And so I just plugged this in, and it came with the cord as well. So I didn't have to do anything with that at all. Not to be left out, it also came with a very rudimentary remote, which is nice. One of the features of this remote, which is almost necessary for this kind of device is that it's RF. So the device can sit back behind your TV, not be seen, and then this thing can get to it. Very simple remote, 6 buttons and a directional pad, pretty easy to set up. You can also, if you want, get a better remote for this. There's a voice remote or something for another $30. And it's got that technology where you can hit a button and you can say, find me reruns of Welcome Back, Kotter. And then the device will go out and do that and find them for you. So that's pretty cool. I did not get that. Also, if you have an Android device, there is an iOS device, I believe, there's an app you can download for your phone or your tablet that can be remote for your Fire Stick and take care of that same kind of thing. So you can talk to your phone and say, find me, the Rockford Files reruns or something, and it will do that for you. So it's pretty cool technology. And like I said, the other thing is that it's also a Miracast receiver. So you should be able to use it for wireless display. I tried it with all of my Windows devices. I tried it with my Surface Pro 2. I tried it with my Toshiba Encore Mini, and I tried it with my Dell Venue 8 Pro. Could not get it to attach to any of those. I did not try with any Android devices because I don't have any Android devices that do Miracast. So that's another piece of functionality that's there. So hopefully that will get updated. So that was one cool thing. When you set this up, and I did a video of the setup, and I don't know if I'll publish it or not because it's kind of long and ugly, but you hook it up to wireless, so you put your code in and all that kind of stuff. That interface is pretty good. It went up and downloaded its first update and updated itself right after setup. So that was nice that I had the most recent version of all this. So far having a fun time playing with that. Again, it fits in sort of like a Roku, a little better than a Chromecast, I think. But again, for $20, I couldn't. $20 is like what a cup of coffee costs at Starbucks, I think. I don't know. But that was one of the fun things. One of the fun gadgets that came in this week. Last week was a great week for gadgets. So I got my Fire Stick. That was pretty exciting. And what made it even better is a whole bunch of people did not get their Fire Sticks because they're on back order. So that was awesome. The other thing that came in, and I've been waiting a whole long time for this, is the Pluggable 8 or the Pluggable Pro 8 dock. So I have talked to you guys just ad nauseum about my Dell Venue 8 tablet. This little guy right here, love him, so cute, so adorable. Who couldn't love a face like this? Anyway, one of the issues or clumsy bits about this device is it has a single USB port, and that serves as both charging and where you hook up peripherals. So it doesn't take very long to realize the first problem is what happens if you want to charge it and hook up a peripheral. I think Einstein talked about that with the whole relativity thing. You can't do that. So there's a bunch of ways to get around that, and I had some blog posts on that. There's this big wad of cables. But the other thing that you can use is this pluggable dock here. And I got this last week and hooked it up, worked like a champ. So it hooks up, it charges the Dell Venue 8 Pro, and then it also has 4 USB ports, but even more, it's got hardwired Ethernet, so you don't have to use wireless. It's got a DVI port, so you can hook up a big monitor, and it's got speaker and microphone jacks on it. So hooked that up, worked like a champ, loving that thing. Had a lot of fun with that. You can get that on Amazon. It's like $89. But you're probably saying to yourself, but Todd, I don't have a Dell Venue 8 Pro. I have some other device. Oh yeah, so that reminds me. So I did make an unboxing video for that. Been kind of playing with that lately, making the unboxing videos. Not sure what you guys think. That's kind of fun. I know I watch those from time to time. If I'm thinking about buying a gadget, I like to see it, see how the setup goes and all that. So I made an unboxing video for the Pluggable Pro 8 dock. So if you're curious about it, check that out. But then as soon as I got that going and it worked and everything was awesome, I'm like, I've got some other tablets here. I wonder if it works with them. So I got my Toshiba Encore Mini out, and that is a 7-inch tablet. Now, the thing about this tablet is it is $100. That Dell Venue 8 there Pro, that's got 64 gig of storage. It's got like 2 gig of RAM. I think I paid close to $300 for it, something like that. This guy, 7 inches, $100. Now it's only got 1 gig of RAM. It's only got 16 gig of storage. But honestly, it's not been a bad performer for me. But it has that same USB on the go port on it. 1 USB port, charging, and peripherals. So I had the dock sitting there. I had this thing sitting there thought, what the heck? So I just plugged it in. I did not let any of the magic smoke out. That is good. And it worked. It worked exactly the same way that the Dell Venue 8 Pro did. So I made another video of that one also. So if you have a Toshiba Encore Mini, you can also try that. That worked out pretty well. So now I can hook either one of them up to it. So Pluggable obviously engineered this to work with the Dell Venue 8 Pro. They've tested some other tablets with it, like the Mix or the Mix 2 or something works with it. There are a few of the other tablets that it does not work with. Like it doesn't work with the Acer Iconia W4 or something like that. So if you if that's the only tablet that you have, check the Pluggable site, see what they say about it there. But for $90, that's a pretty handy little thing. I was able to, with my Dell Venue 8 Pro, was able to basically use it like a workstation. Had that actually hooked it right up to that monitor there, had it full screen, like watched Netflix over it, things like that. Worked like a champ. It had a lot of functionality to that tablet. So thanks to the guys at Pluggable for making that. I do appreciate that. Finally, as I've been looking around at these tablets and things like that, when this thing came out, this Toshiba, and it was $99, it was amazing. Like nobody could believe it. And when it came out, its price was originally $129, and we're all like, wow, that's pretty cheap, $129 for it. And it's running full Windows, and it comes with a year of Office 365, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's amazing. I don't know how they did it. And then a bunch of people started coming out with these $99 tablets. And HP recently came out with one. They came out with the HP Stream 7. You can get that on Amazon. We'll have a link below for you for that. Also $99. Also comes with a year of Office 365, which costs $99 or roughly that. Same general specs, 1 gig of RAM, that kind of stuff, 7-inch screen. But the HP Stream 7 has 32 gig of storage, where this Toshiba only has 16 gig. And the Toshiba has a much better screen. And I will admit that the screen on that Toshiba is not the best. A little fuzzy, but it was $99. I can't fault them for that. That's how that goes. But from the people that I've talked to that have the HP Stream 7, the screen is much better on that. So if you're looking at a $99 tablet, you can't go wrong with the Toshiba, but you'll probably be even happier with the HP Stream 7. So I haven't gotten one of those. Honestly, I think if I buy another tablet, my wife's going to kick me and all the tablets out. Fortunately for me, it will take her a long time to round up all of the tablets that I've collected. So I'll have some time to, get some packing done. But I do not have one of those, so I can't test it with a dock or anything like that. But there's a bunch of reviews out there on them, great devices. But I think the big thing about this is just I like the trend. When Windows 8 first came out, I don't think I need to remind anybody, it was much reviled. And I think for some good reason. I was one of those people that didn't like it. I installed it into a VM. I installed the server version and didn't like it. But part of the reason was I'd never used it with a tablet. The Windows 8 RTM version was so heavily focused on touch devices that if you weren't using a touch device, it just seemed horrible. But I remember the first time I used Windows 8 on Surface, I got it. I mean, it made sense. It was still a little clumsy, but I'm like, oh, this whole thing's starting to make a little bit of sense. But at that time, a year ago, this was last summer, you couldn't get cheap Windows tablets. And Microsoft, I mean, their heart was in the right spot. They were thinking what they didn't want was people to buy cheap tablets and have a horrible experience and not be able to differentiate the horrible experience from Windows, not realize that it's the tablet, because Android developers or Android tablets had that problem. A bunch of cheap Android tablets flooded the market, made people hate Android. Microsoft didn't want to repeat that. But for Windows 8, getting and touching that interface on a tablet was amazing because it kind of made it all fall together. Now, there's still a bunch of problems, and Windows 8.1 still needed to come out, but it finally clicked for me. So I think having a bunch of devices like this where people can, so now here we are a year and a half later, everybody hates Windows 8, even people who've never touched it. But now if you can get one of these $99 tablets and get Windows 8.1 in your hand and play with it a little bit, you'll understand it's not bad. So I think the idea that they're getting these tablets out cheap is a good thing. I think it'll only help them out. And there's all kinds of things. So the other thing that's coming out, and these are already, if you go to Alibaba, I do that. Alibaba is a big warehouse site in China that just sells everything, and in bulk. It's like the Costco of buying crap, electronic crap on the internet. But a lot of OEMs sell stuff there, and already out there on Alibaba are sticks like this, HDMI sticks, this form factor, running full Windows. So it's essentially the hardware behind this minus the battery and minus the screen in a form factor like this. Now, out on Alibaba, if you want to order one of them, they're like $130, $140. I don't want to pay that for them, but they're going to get cheaper. They're going to, so within a few months, we're going to be seeing devices like this that run full Windows that you can just plug into a monitor, hook up to a hub, and use as a computer, or plug into a TV and do that kind of stuff with. So I love the way the trend is going. I love where it's going. It's been very exciting. And plus, I just like to buy gadgets. So if you have any gadgets out there that you'd like me to take a look at or whatever, give me a shout. I'd be curious to see what kind of gadgets you guys are using out there and what you're using them for. And I plan on I've got a blog post coming on how to make the best use of these tablets, some tricks that I've learned over the last few months, and I'll be curious to hear what you guys have to say. So thanks for tolerating all my gadget talk. We're almost done here. So again, we're getting towards the end of the year. The conference season is wound down, but I've already got some commitments for next year. I'm going to be at SP TechCon February 8th through the 11th. That is in beautiful, sunny Austin, Texas. I'll be there with a bunch of my homies from Rackspace and all my SharePoint pals. I'm going to be talking about, I think, Upgrade. I forget, PowerShell. I forget what my sessions are, but you can go to sptechcon.com and sign up for that. And I'll be there. I'm sure Rackspace will have some presence there. We'll do some things like that too. And then 2 months after that, April 20th through the 22nd, I'm going to be at SharePoint Evolutions in London. I cannot wait for that. Too much fun. Steve Smith is the organizer for that. I have not nailed down with him what sessions I'm going to be talking about, but I don't care. I'm just happy to be there. So if you're in Europe or anywhere near Europe and you're coming to SharePoint Evolutions, look me up. I will be there April 20th through the 22nd. Thanks, everybody. Chat room, stick around. There's some questions in there that I did not respond to because it's tough to type and talk at the same time. But to all my American listeners out there, have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And I will see you guys next week. And thanks, everybody. Have a good night.